Friedrich Nietzsche died alone, not in battle, not in exile, not at the hands of an enemy. He died in a chair, mentally shattered, institutionalized, staring at a wall. And yet the ideas inside that broken skull are more dangerous today than they were when he first wrote them down in 1883. Because Nietzsche didn't write philosophy. He wrote warnings, and you ignored every single one of them. Let's start with the warning that will hurt the most. Nietzsche looked at the modern world, the schools, the churches, the social contracts, the systems that reward compliance and punish ambition, and he gave it a name. He called it slave morality, not because the people living under it were poor, not because they were physically enslaved, but because they had accepted a value system designed by the weak for the weak, to keep the strong from ever rising. Think about what you were taught to value: humility, patience, selflessness, turn the other cheek, wait your turn, don't brag, share everything, need nothing, want less. Nietzsche looked at this list and asked one question: who benefits when the strong believe this? The answer is the same today as it was then. Everyone who cannot compete with you benefits enormously when you believe that your power is a sin. This is the oldest trick in human history. Convince the lion that claws are immoral. Watch him starve, call it virtue. This is the oldest trick in human history. Convince the lion that claws are immoral. Watch him starve, call it virtue. But here is where Nietzsche goes deeper than anyone else. He didn't just diagnose the system, he diagnosed you. He said most people don't follow slave morality because they were forced to. They follow it because it is comfortable, because slave morality comes with a gift. It gives you someone to blame. If you are humble and still poor, it's the rich man's fault. If you are patient and still overlooked, it's the system's fault. If you are selfless and still alone, it's society's fault. Slave morality turns resentment into identity. It takes your failure and reframes it as evidence of your goodness. I didn't succeed because I refused to compromise my values. Nietzsche had a word for this. He called it ressentiment, the psychology of a person who cannot create, so they destroy, who cannot rise, so they pull down, who cannot win, so they redefine winning as losing and losing as winning. Sound familiar? Look at the comments under any successful person's video. Look at the way mediocrity polices ambition. Look at how quickly a room turns on the person who wants more. That is ressentiment in real time. And if you have ever held yourself back to avoid triggering it in others, you are already infected. Now we arrive at the idea that destroyed Nietzsche's reputation for an entire century: the Übermensch, the overman. This concept was stolen, twisted, and weaponized by people Nietzsche would have despised. So let's kill the lie and find the truth. Nietzsche was not talking about race. He was not talking about conquest. He was not talking about crushing other people. He was talking about self-overcoming. The Übermensch is not a person who dominates others. The Übermensch is a person who dominates themselves, who creates their own values instead of inheriting someone else's, who defines their own meaning instead of borrowing it from institutions, who looks at the chaos of existence, the pain, the uncertainty, the silence of the universe, and says, "Good, I'll build something here." Nietzsche's question was not, "Are you better than other people?" His question was, "Are you better than the version of you from yesterday? Are you living by your own code or someone else's? Are you creating or just consuming? Are you alive or just existing?" Most people will never ask these questions, not because they're not capable, because the system that raised them rewarded them every time they didn't. Here is the warning that hit hardest. In 1882, Nietzsche wrote a parable. A madman runs into a marketplace carrying a lantern in broad daylight. He is screaming, "God is dead, God remains dead, and we have killed him." The people around him laugh. They think he is insane. But the madman turns on them and says, "Do you not understand what this means? We have unchained the earth from its sun. There is no horizon. There is no up or down. We are falling, and we do not yet know where. Now, before you hear this as an attack on religion, stop. Nietzsche was not celebrating the death of God. He was terrified by it, because what he saw, what he was warning about, was not the loss of faith. It was the loss of foundation. For centuries, humans organized their meaning, their morality, their sense of purpose around a single fixed point. And Nietzsche watched that point dissolve, and he looked at what was rising to replace it. Nationalism, ideology, fame, status, productivity, follower counts. The dopamine loop of a stranger's approval delivered in real time to your pocket. He saw it coming 140 years ago. A world where God was replaced not by something greater, but by something emptier. A world where humans would rather be entertained than enlightened, distracted than awake, validated than transformed. He called the people who would thrive in this world the last men, comfortable, safe, blinking, asking only one question every morning: what is trending today? So what was Nietzsche's answer? Not religion, not ideology, not another system. He called it amor fati, love of fate, not tolerance of fate, not acceptance of fate, love. The idea that everything that has happened to you, every failure, every wound, every humiliation, every door that was closed, every person who underestimated you, every moment you felt invisible, was not a mistake. It was the exact curriculum required to build the person you are becoming. Amor fati is not optimism. Optimism says it will get better. Amor fati says it doesn't matter, because you will build with whatever you are given. Nietzsche took this even further with the most terrifying thought experiment in the history of philosophy. He called it Eternal Recurrence. Imagine a demon appears to you tonight, in your darkest, most exhausted hour, and it tells you this: the life you are living now, you will live again. Infinite times, every choice, every consequence, every morning, every night, exactly as it is, forever. Would you collapse? Or would you say, do it again? That question is the entire test. If you would collapse, then you are living someone else's life. You are on a path you didn't choose. You are spending your days in quiet dread of the next one. If you would say, do it again, then you have found it. The thing Nietzsche spent his entire life trying to name. A life so completely, unapologetically your own, that you would choose it again into infinity. Here is what nobody tells you about Nietzsche. He wasn't angry. The writing feels like fury, it reads like thunder, but underneath every single word was something that looked almost like grief. Because Nietzsche could see the potential. He could see what human beings were capable of when they stopped performing compliance and started pursuing greatness. And he watched them choose comfort instead, every single time. He watched brilliant people make themselves small to fit inside systems designed for the average. He watched strong people use their strength to carry weak ideas because the weak ideas came with approval attached. He watched entire generations trade their one irreplaceable life for the feeling of being accepted by people they didn't even respect. And he screamed. For 40 years he screamed through his books, "You are more than this. You were built for more than this. Stop waiting for permission to become what you already are." And the world looked at him and went back to sleep. So here is the only question that matters after everything you've just heard. Which are you? Are you the last man? Warm, comfortable, blinking, trading your potential one distraction at a time? Or are you the one Nietzsche was writing for? The one who can hear a warning and actually change because of it? The one who looks at their own slave morality, the hesitation, the permission-seeking, the fear dressed up as humility, and decides to cut it out? Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, now, because Nietzsche's darkest warning was not about society. It was about the moment you realize the truth and still do nothing. That is the real death he was afraid of, not the death of the body, the death of the will, the slow, comfortable, well-liked, perfectly forgettable death of a person who knew exactly what they were capable of and chose Netflix instead. He warned you, the only question left is, what are you going to do now that you've listened?